What's a luxury that most people don't realize is a luxury? Story 1. There was a great Ask Reddit thread a while ago asking people in third world countries what people in first world countries don't understand about the difference, and most of the answers amounted to, nothing works the way it should, power goes out, water stops working, things go out of stock all the time, nothing happens on time, etc. Story 2. Coffee and chocolate. They are both incredibly difficult, environmentally damaging when they're grown wrong, resource-hungry, and labor-intensive products that too many people expect to be cheap. They should be incredibly expensive, but because they are grown in places where the workers can be paid next to nothing, we expect them to be cheap. Story 3. 1. Luxury that many people don't realize is a luxury is free time. In a fast-paced world, having time to relax, pursue hobbies, spend with loved ones, or simply do nothing is often overlooked. Many people are so busy with work, commitments, and daily responsibilities that they don't realize the value of unstructured, stress-free time until it's scarce. Story 4. Sidewalks. You go to somewhere like Tanzania, or even older, less developed neighborhoods, and there are none, just a non-distinct edge of a dirt road bordering a ditch to walk on. Yet here in America, there are so many sidewalks that sometimes they're overgrown and hardly used in certain places in comparison to the roads. Story 5. The time we live in. I really like this question because I've always thought of luxury as pillars in time, and I hope you think the way I do after reading what I have to say. Long story short, we move fast in civilized areas. If you look around you, you may think you are poor, but people who live in what is considered our poorest of living scenarios would be considered absolutely rich 100 years ago. If you think about the 1920s and 30s, indoor plumbing being all the rage and all, you having tap water makes you better off than 94.8% of people in the 20s, but only 26% in the 30s because we move pretty fast in society. Civilization is awesome now. House listings will never say that they have indoor plumbing because that is a norm now. If you ever live in America for a reasonable amount of time and leave, you will say, air conditioning is a luxury, but there is air conditioning other places. It's just not as cold as you became accustomed to. So because there is a difference, the better one becomes more luxurious. In the time we live in, we have choices in everything. And I think the people before us provided us all with such a great quality of living that we don't really appreciate that we live in a world that has evolved in a great way. We live like the royalty of the early 1900s, and people don't appreciate it because they don't know a world without luxury. Story 6. Having free time. The ability to have time for yourself, to relax, pursue hobbies, or simply do nothing is something that many people around the world don't have due to demanding jobs, multiple responsibilities, or difficult living conditions. The freedom to spend time how you choose, without constantly worrying about making ends meet or fulfilling obligations, is a significant luxury that often goes unnoticed. Story 7. Not being in a hurry. Having a job that isn't going to ream you out for being late. Having a home life that doesn't require you to be stressed and scheduled down to the minute. Being able to take your time driving, shopping, doing home projects, etc. Something I never realized until I got a job that pays well and lets me set my own schedule completely changed my perspective on the value of not being stressed and in a rush. Story 8. As someone who is just getting started off-grid, I'd say, clean and safe to drink water from your tap, a toilet that magically takes your waste down the drain, hot showers, and an abundance of electricity for all our devices. I wouldn't ever go back to that blind luxury, but man, it's nice. You don't realize what a privilege it is to just turn on your shower and proceed to take a 20-minute long hot shower until you can't do that anymore. On the other hand, it is so rewarding when you figure all this out and you take a hot shower knowing you made that happen. Now that's luxury. Story 9. Being able to take a break from work. I took a short sabbatical last year for a mental reset, and my wife is doing the same this year. We're frugal and stick to a budget, but even being able to enjoy our simple lifestyle without two sources of income seems unobtainable for most people. I certainly am grateful and acknowledge I'm in a privileged position. Story 10. Pretty much everything in the modern world. Transportation of all sorts, stores that sell anything you can imagine, clean running water, incredible amounts of readily accessible foods, prepackaged, ready-to-eat foods, the internet, cell phones, electricity, basically everything everyone takes for granted and gives us such a great quality of life. Story 11. Housing. I've been homeless since April, and it makes living a fucking nightmare. Trying to find work, but no one wants to hire me, and the welfare housing programs take months. Want a shower? Can only do it on certain days and at certain times. Want to do laundry and don't have money for the laundromat? Can do it at a shelter, but only in an extremely narrow window, and the one I do my laundry at, someone broke the dryer so I can't do any until it's fixed. Want to eat but don't have money? Shelter food, but half the time it's worse than prison food. I found actual bones in food that shouldn't have them, and the bread sometimes has mold on it, though not often, but it's always incredibly stale. Want to sleep? If you're in a shelter, you have to share a giant room with other homeless people, and people get robbed every single night. Want to sleep and not in a shelter? You better make friends to watch your back and be safe around. People do meth, crack, fentanyl, etc., all out in the open. People have gone around forcibly giving hot shots to people they don't like, which fries their brains, and it changes people. They can't even hold a single coherent sentence afterwards. Not a single sentence. Want somewhere to store your belongings if you have a job? Better find friends you can trust to watch it and not stab you in the back. Being homeless is a nightmare. I don't do drugs or drink, I just made dumb decisions and now I'm having to deal with the consequences. Not all of us are monsters. A lot of homeless people just made bad choices. I have $31 in my bank account right now, and I have no idea how I'm going to pay my phone bill next month. I have food stamps, but I'm out of money for this month, and it doesn't refill until the 5th. You can't buy hot food with it, and I don't have a way to cook anything, so most of the time I eat cold food. It's just awful. Story 12. One luxury that many people might not realize is a luxury is time. Having the freedom to use your time as you wish, whether to rest, pursue hobbies, spend with loved ones, or simply relax, is something not everyone can afford. Many people are constrained by work, financial obligations, or other responsibilities that limit their ability to control their own time. Story 13. An expensive smartphone. When I was growing up, not everyone even had landlines. Then a lot of people only had one phone for the whole house. While I understand with the state of tech that a smartphone might be a necessity, an iPhone or expensive smartphone isn't a requirement. Neither is every person in the house, including children, having phones. Story 14. In George Orwell's book Road to Wagon Pier, which saw this highly educated home counties writer blend into the working class areas of Britain, said that he felt that a big difference between the two areas is that the working class always had to wait around for everything. So if you don't have to wait too long for the train, too long in the doctor's office, too long on the phone for help, too long for customers, waiting in your workday, then you are living a life of luxury. Story 15, a car. In most scenarios, it's such a bizarre thing that it's the default transportation option. Like, brother, you're driving yourself to the gym to hop on a treadmill. The gym is 1 mile away. Or parents complaining about kids not walking to school. Meanwhile, they drive their kid to school in a giant SUV that 12 kids can sit in front of in a line before the kids get seen. No shit, they can't walk to school anymore, Karen. And no, it's not because kidnappers, it's because of you. Turn off Fox News and stop seeing SUV ads, they lie. Anyways, most ancestors would roll in their grave from how lazy we've gotten with these death tanks on wheels that have seating for 8 but 99% of the time only occupied by 1. Calling cars a necessity proves how out of touch and how easily manipulated by the marketing strategy of automobile manufacturers. Story 16. Privacy. Not just online, that's important too, but I mean physically in Teal life. My Safari Lodge offers 100% privacy, which includes the decks of all cottages, and they all have a private plunge pool, an outdoor shower, and an unspoiled view towards the mountains. When we constructed the lodge, we didn't think about this aspect that much, but it turns out to be the most important reason why visitors decide to book with us. Our problem is now that when we return to our home country, Belgium, we get annoyed by everyone around us. Having a drink on your terrace, people see you, staying inside but opening the curtains as to at least get some sort of a view. People see you. We sometimes make fun of the situation by imagining what would happen if we build an outdoor shower and use it. How long until we get arrested? LOL. Anyway, bottom line, in most modern countries, people don't know what a feeling of absolute freedom comes from having no visible neighbors. It's something for the ultra-rich only. Story 17. Insurance of all kinds. Most places and times, if your house burned down or your vehicle was stolen, you got sick and couldn't work, you got robbed, you got old, you were just done. That was it. You were out everything and none of it magically came back into your life with a check from State Farm. I suspect this fact has changed culture way more than most people realize, and probably has lots of downstream effects that would be fascinating to explore. One of the more obvious is that people in developed countries today have a hard time understanding why criminal punishments used to be more brutal. It wasn't just that people up until practically yesterday were more callous about life. Those crimes had irreversible effects. A horse thief could destroy entire families' lives. Story 18. I'm not talking first world versus third world items, but something a lot of people don't realize is a luxury is a really good hand soap, something where you don't need more than one pump, if it's a liquid hand soap, to get the job done and feel that the soap is very luxurious. Story 19. Coming from someone that lived in rural India in a small village, Living in any Western country is a luxury. Having to get water from a well, heating it up, propane tanks delivered to you for cooking needs, or heck, even cooking over a fire, is the stuff I grew up with. Electricity was never 100% solid. Story 20, air conditioning and having your own washer-dryer. Our apartment doesn't have AC and literally turns into an oven in the summer. We had to spend almost $400 on an AC. We also don't have any washer-dryer hookups, so we have to use laundromats. Those prices can add up quickly. It's $5, $7 per washing machine. Regular size is $5 and the bigger washers are $7, and then 25 cents for every 5 minutes of drying. It sucks. Not to mention the time spent just being at the laundromat. Story 21, washing machines and dryers. At my parents' place, they didn't consistently have a washer and dryer for clothes. My work issued 3 uniform shirts. I had to hand wash the one I wore and hang it up to dry so it'd be dry in time for when I'd need it next. It was a constant rotation of having those 3 shirts hanging to dry between my shifts. Story 22, being loved and needed by people. They may drive you insane, you may fantasize about getting away from them for a while, but at the end of the day, you matter to people who have history and a connection with you. They count on you. They would be so broken if you passed away or went missing. You matter. When you have none of that, well, it's not a life you want. Story 23, a quiet place to sleep, like truly quiet. Never realized how good I had it living in a quiet suburb until I moved into a college dorm, then into apartment living afterward. Now that I've gotten to the point of being able to afford living somewhere suburban again, having legit peace and quiet to fall asleep is something I'll never take for granted. Story 24. Fresh food. Growing up, my dad would always buy bulk from warehouse stores and keep the food in the freezer, mainly cheese, vegetables, and bread. I was used to it, but then I went to friends' houses and they didn't do the same. I asked him why he did it, and he said it's what he grew up doing. He grew up poor in a large family and had to stretch out food. He told me that he couldn't afford a baseball bat, but Ballpark Hot Dogs had a promotion where if you bought a certain amount, you would get a free baseball bat. So his family bought a bunch of hot dogs to get a bat for the family. They ate hot dogs for months. I still do the same, but always buy fresh when I can. Story 25, having mid-grade toilet paper, actual Dawn dish soap, and the mid-grade trash bags. My life just feels so much better after I re-upgrade after being broke for a while. Cheap dish soap sucks and you use way more of it, but sometimes you can only afford the $1 bottle. Cheap trash bags cost more per bag and they're way shittier than like Walmart or Aldi brand, but they're only $1 instead of $7. Toilet paper speaks for itself. God help me when I can only afford the $1 4-pack. I do believe in found single rolls of mid-grade to good toilet paper in the $1 aisle, though. Story 26. Throwing away trash. Had to empty out my dad's apartment. We brought a load of stuff to the dump. That's when I realized how much of a luxury it is. Throw away trash. First, you have to own something big enough to haul your stuff down to the dump and pay the dump fees, which was $60 when I went. When money is tight, no one is going to pay to throw away trash. Story 27. Having no allergies to any food or their ingredients. I'm the only one in my friend group with 0 allergies, and I will never appreciate this enough. Everyone always has to ask, does this contain this? Does this contain that? While I can choose anything I want without ever being at risk of harming myself. It's a huge privilege. Story 28. Having access to a car, even your parents' car. I just remember being from an area that was middle class and in community college in the city, talking about how everyone should go on a road trip to someplace, and then half the class. Shocked me to hear how many of them didn't have any access to a car their entire life and hadn't even driven to the ocean that was an hour drive away. Also lived in a sober living and I became everyone's taxi driver, LOL. I didn't mind helping out taking people to work. I had the luxury of my parents just throwing money at me for my sobriety during COVID, and I didn't have to work at all while figuring my shit out and starting college. Sober livings are expensive. And yeah, I was helping them get on their feet by giving rides to work. Story 29. Universal healthcare. I grew up in a third world country in Asia where there is no decent publicly funded healthcare system. I've already lost some friends and loved ones who could still be living today had they seen a doctor before things got worse. It's unfortunate that getting proper healthcare is a function of being employed with healthcare benefits provided by the employer. I now live in North America where I don't face that situation anymore. Story 30. We have 2 ladies who are sisters at reception. When one of them goes on holidays, the other has to work a few more days to compensate. This one sister was complaining that this week she had to work 4 full days. Normally she works 2. This woman has the most hedonistic life, which is purely about enjoyment. No kids, house paid off, enough savings, just works to break the mundanity of too much free time. And then she complains about having to work 4 days. The absolute privilege of having so much free time that you get to spend on anything you want because you have enough money. I understand this has always been the life of the elites, but not the common man. She's very much a common woman. Story 31. Generally, in America, having a job, roof over your head, a bed to sleep in, and food in the fridge is incredible to have. Even if it's not the most luxurious or the nicest of homes, you got it better than most people in a lot of countries. We have it so good here, even on the low end of the poverty scale. Yeah, life sucks once in a while, but life can suck worse in other places. Being grateful for what you have really can change your outlook on life. Story 32. Almost everything we in the developed Western world take for granted. Shelter, access to safely drinkable tap water, which doesn't even apply to all developed countries. Access to electricity, social security, a working healthcare system for some countries. The ability to buy groceries without needing to look for the very cheapest brand or deal. Story 33. Unions. You can literally see the effects of not having unions in many countries, and people are being preyed upon and duped by their employers in any way possible. Strong unions always show the benefits for the workers wherever they work, yet people often so not acknowledge them for that. Story 34. A woman who genuinely loves you and thinks of no one else. In today's modern world, that's extremely rare and more valuable than all the gold and silver in the world. To put in perspective, there's millionaire husbands who will never be able to have that.